Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, I'll be addressing from yesterday's video the same kind of winter storm slash storm threat that the models have been forecasting now for a few days. It's increasingly looking like there may be a series of two, maybe potentially even three systems that are going to be separate. However, with each single one of these systems, particularly the second one, there looks as if there may be a decent severe weather concern, decent severe weather risk. Right now, we are looking at the precipitable water precipitation, or a percentage of how moist the atmosphere is. And you could see that in some areas, the GFS is forecasting moisture surging very far towards the north, especially for this time of the year. And this is exactly what fuels big systems, flooding, rain, severe weather. So the system is becoming a little bit alarming to me, and I want to show you exactly why. So let's start off with the European model. I will be showing you both the European and the GFS, but let's start off with the European. So I want to preface that all these systems and storms will be taking place in a pretty warm pattern. So the snowy side to this will be rather limited, but that doesn't mean that the storms will be without threat. You could argue actually that because it's going to be so warm, the threat and danger is actually higher due to the fact that there will be more severe weather accompanying these systems. So let's take a look at the European, start off with it, and show you what it does. So across the west coast, notice that in the next few days, into Thursday and Friday, we begin seeing a coastal area of low pressure move in, and it becomes cut off. We talked about this yesterday. Basically, the jet stream kind of flowing further towards the north, and we have this area of low pressure. It's very weak. It's not even really a low pressure, but it's cut off completely from the jet stream. So essentially, it could just take its time doing its own thing, and you could see that by the time we get towards the weekend, this system being pretty far south into the Pacific, there's still pretty warm waters there, or at least warmer than there would be further up north. So this thing begins to intensify, maybe even potentially tapping into some of that tropical air that or water temperatures that are still there around this time of the year. And notice it begins to bring quite a bit of heavy rain into California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona. There would be obviously snow with this. Note that further up north there is kind of an Alberta Clipper system hybrid. Behind it, a little bit of cold air, nothing unusual for this time of the year though. And really the only impacts are going to be, at least for much of the viewing area here, southern Canada and the northeast, quite a bit of rain, maybe some showers and thunderstorms, and then heavy snow across Ontario and central Quebec. But I don't know if I have many viewers out there. I do know I have a few, so for those folks, there's definitely going to be some snow there this upcoming weekend. But notice that the pattern is overall very, very warm. Now, as we get into Sunday and Monday, so yes, this is a pretty slow moving system. You can see it's still pouring rain across the west. We begin to see this first piece move out, but we see a second low pressure swing in. And this one has a lot more cold air behind it. You can see the blue 540 line. This first one, because it's kind of being rushed by this first one and still pretty far away from that cold air, it doesn't really have enough time to develop into a large system. However, you can see it still brings showers and storms potentially into the central United States. Some of these may be severe on Tuesday and into Wednesday. Some rumbles of thunder, not unusual in November, especially given how warm this pattern is. And then note that that second system that we saw come in is now doing the very same thing. There's more cold air with this one, right? And you could see that there's more snow as a result across Nevada, Utah, into Arizona. And this thing does move out. Yesterday, if you recall, the European developed this into its own system that was rather large. Today, it's better than that first little piece of storm, but it's kind of it's still a weaker system. There's definitely going to be a severe weather threat, but there's no centralized low pressure with this. Now the models are still jumping back and forth on this, so nothing's set in stone. The GFS has its own theory, but it's increasingly likely that it will kind of come in waves of several waves, these storms. So I might just switch from calling this a winter storm unless we get a clear signal that there's going to be a cohesive winter storm, and just call this like a parade of storms or of sorts. But notice that cold front right there, that is very powerful, and there's probably going to be a lot of severe weather attached to that. So there is some danger growing here of potentially a tumultuous system there. Do note that as I put this forward, we have that third piece now moving in. This one has a lot more snow with it, pretty much fully snow as we get towards the Thanksgiving week. And you can see this one does, again, produce quite a bit of severe weather and maybe even a snowy side across the plains. You can see the European doesn't really quite show that, but again, the European has a tendency of underestimating rains versus snow transitions. But yeah, that is a powerful cold front, so we will have to keep an eye on for some of the severe weather here. And you can see as I drag this forward, the pattern remains active. We see more cold air, which gives way potentially to a stronger possibility for snow systems and winter storms as opposed to these almost complete rain events. So now I want to show you the GFS model. Now this one, unlike the European, does show more of a cohesive system, again with potentially more severe weather to the south side of it, but it still shows several waves of them. So let's start off with, let's go back a little bit here. I went a little forward in time. Let's go back to the weekend. So again, very similar setup with the first system. That first piece, cut off low, bringing tons of rain into California and the southern, the southwest there, and we see quite a bit of cold air across the north there with that secondary system, as the European also noted, potentially bringing some rain and snow across northeast there. But again, that cold air remains far away. Notice that this thing is absolutely moisture loaded because of the warmth and of the Pacific and even some of the, again, tropics getting in there. This thing's going to drop a lot of rain, and primarily rain, but also some snow into the higher elevations across the weekend here. And just like the European, the GFS takes this first system, potentially produces a little bit of snow across Nebraska, Iowa. We'll see what happens there, but it mainly scurries it out of here and gives way to a second system, which, just like the European, does have more cold air with it. And unlike the European, this system goes really far south here, grabs a lot of moisture from the tropics, and begins forming into a larger cohesive storm. And you could honestly argue that it's a pretty monster-sized system. So the GFS is a bigger proponent of that. It also stays a little further west, and unlike the European, which showed that third piece evolving into a separate storm, the GFS takes that third piece, which it does still show, that is almost fully snow across these areas, so unlike the first two systems, and it kind of starts merging that with this one. Not fully though. You can see this one does have a little bit of snow across North Dakota, Minnesota, a pretty nasty storm. There's definitely going to be a pretty powerful cold front with this, so some severe weather, again, a possibility. And you could see, look how far south this one's digging. It's still cut off from the majority of that cold air, but after a series of storms, a parade of storms like this, there's enough cold air for that to fall as snow, especially in the elevated areas, and the GFS yet again produces another system, potentially across the very same areas we see severe weather and flooding rains. So that is definitely going to be interesting. Not until much later does the GFS introduce a system with a lot more snow across the northwest and potentially more cold air. But regarding the cold air and the pattern change, that thing looks still on. It looks still good. It's just that the models are struggling with the exact handling of this, given that it's so far out. And the main, I think, cold will only come in at around early December. This only takes us through late November. So just to show you a few more model runs, this is a GFS model run that came in a little bit before the one I just showed you. And notice that it still showed something pretty similar. It showed that that first system, or sorry, I guess the second system, that first wave already moved past at this point. This is pretty far out, and it shows that system still exploding into a fairly decent sized storm. And again, I'm becoming increasingly concerned with this, not because of a powerful destructive winter storm, snowy side, but a potential severe weather risk here that could go on pretty significantly far towards the north, and also for a pretty long duration here with several of these systems. So that is definitely a little bit concerning, and the models have been consistent with this system in particular for a decent bit. You can see that the GFS has gone through several variations of it today. Another model run I'm showing you right now in the morning hours came up with a scenario that showed the system further south. So we'll have to wait and see. But I am becoming a little bit more concerned, and you can see the GFS keeps pumping out these systems with again a potential pretty nasty severe weather side there. So I'll definitely keep you guys updated. But for now, that is basically it. Just wanted to give you a quick update on this, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.